One of the biggest issues in public safety is how to eliminate racial discrimination by police officers. Racial discrimination has led to inequitable administration of the law and police abuse of power, including undue brutality against county residents. Over the past 5 years, a New York Times investigation found that police officers have killed more than 400 drivers or passengers who were not wielding a gun or knife or under pursuit for a violent crime. In most of these cases, the officer was not convicted. The primary way that police officers interact with the public is traffic stops, most often regarding minor violations like broken taillights or expired tags. These interactions have been shown to do little to improve public safety. Instead, they put the driver at risk of racial profiling, and that escalates to violence. At the same time, traffic stops are also dangerous for police officers, resulting in more officer fatalities than any other police activity. As reported by the New York Times, even if the risk is low at a given stop. So in the current landscape, traffic stops are risky to both the driver and the police officer and ineffective at preventing crime. Addressing how police interact with people in traffic stops could be one of the most effective ways to achieve more equitable outcomes in policing.
Data-driven, and the data he's seen is disturbing.
I think there is disproportionality, and I think it comes from an underlying bias. There's enough out there to indicate that just looking at traffic stops that we've probably got a problem.
Elrich and other county leaders called for dramatic reforms in policing in Montgomery County, with a focus on stopping disproportionately targeting minorities.
Go inside!
And putting a new corps of mental health crisis workers on the front lines to de-escalate situations like this May 5th confrontation between a lone Montgomery County police officer trying to deal with a knife-wielding man who charged at the officer.
I don't want to shoot you!
No, Finn!
30-year-old Finan Berhe was shot and killed.
There are a lot of instances where law enforcement should not be the first call.
Raymond Crowell is the county's Health and Human Services Director.
Our prisons and jails, even here in Montgomery County, have become often the default hospital where you can get help if you're arrested and incarcerated. 20 to 30% of the persons who are sent to county corrections facilities have some mental health or substance use disorder, and we know there's a disproportionate number of persons of color that are included in those in that incarceration.
Elrich says the county needs a dramatic plan for police reform as soon as possible. Today he announced that independent consultants will be hired, and a 13-member special commission made up of independent experts and community members is going to be formed by August 1st. They should have a plan for reform ready to act on by January, Elrich said. Scott Broom, WUSA.
Delaware State University's head women's lacrosse coach has a message for the Georgia Sheriff's deputies who boarded the team's bus on their way home from games down south.
I want them to know that was a traumatic experience. We had some young ladies that was their first experience with law enforcement.
On April 20th, Liberty County, Georgia deputies pulled the Delaware State team's charter bus over on I-95 because they say the driver was illegally driving in the left lane. Minutes later, they're on the bus.
You guys are on a lacrosse team, correct?
They're telling the young women they were going to search their belongings for drugs.
And their response was, on this stretch of highway, that a lot of buses like this are smuggling people and narcotics, and that they have to be vigilant about checking.
With no reason to suspect the players had drugs, they basically told players to come clean.
If there is anything in y'all's luggage, we're probably going to find it. Okay? I'm not looking for a little bit of marijuana, but I'm pretty sure you guys as chaperones are probably going to be disappointed in you if we find it.
Sydney is on the lacrosse team and has since written an article about the ordeal for this HBCU's student newspaper.
It was definitely because majority of us are Black. Majority of my team is Black, my head coach is Black, and the bus driver was Black. So there was no correlation between a traffic law violation and them checking our luggages.
Marijuana is still illegal in the state of Georgia.
The deputies and their police canines never found any drugs, and eventually they told the team they were free to go. The president of Delaware State University says he's absolutely incensed by this. He says he's now reached out to Delaware's governor and congressional delegation and attorney general. He's also reached out, he says, to Georgia law enforcement. He wants answers as to why this happened, and he hasn't ruled out taking legal action. Coach says an apology and a further explanation from the African-American Liberty County Sheriff would be nice. She also wants the deputies who showed up on the bus with the dogs to understand how they made her players feel and to ask themselves if the color of their skin made them decide to do the search in the first place.
I don't want them to be scared to get on a bus for this to possibly happen again.
In Dover, Tim Furlong, NBC 10 News.
By looking at national best practices, we have identified 4 major ways for Montgomery County to reduce racial profiling and inequitable outcomes in traffic stops. 1. Stop pulling people over for minor infractions or pretextual stops. As discussed, this type of policy is now being adopted by several U.S. cities. People would stop getting pulled over for minor infractions or pretextual stops, which can often lead to escalating situations in which violence can occur. These stops especially disproportionately affect Black and brown residents in Montgomery County. In addition, MCPD could add a requirement that officers who do not have a legal warrant or legal probable cause to advise citizens of their right to refuse a search. Officers who want to do a search should be required to inform citizens of their right to refuse that search and that that refusal would not be held against them. 2. Better training for officers about vehicle stops. Some police chiefs and criminologists say that alarmist training about vehicle stops, featuring misleading statistics and gory videos, has made officers too quick to shoot. Although traffic stops are one of the most dangerous parts of an officer's job, the odds of an officer getting killed in a traffic stop is 1 in 3.6 million. At stops for common traffic infractions, the odds are as low as 1 in 6.5 million, according to the University of Arkansas. 3. Use automated traffic enforcement equitably. The county's Reimagining Public Safety Task Force recommends moving to fully or to expand automated traffic enforcement, such as with red light or speed cameras. The task force recommends that the cost savings from this be transferred to the Department of Health and Human Services to be used for annual reviews of individual officer performance, or to the Department of Transportation to make road design safer. However, automated traffic enforcement can still result in inequitable outcomes based on race. This is why the equitable placement of automated traffic enforcement equipment is important, to make sure that cameras are not overly focused on Black and brown neighborhoods. Additionally, the amount of fines or fees can also be a high cost, especially to poor drivers. Research has shown that fines or fees are still an effective deterrent from dangerous driving, even if they are small. To best do this, we recommend shifting responsibility for automated traffic enforcement from MCPD to MCDOT, which would require a change in state policy. This would enable DOT to coordinate automated traffic enforcement with other traffic safety initiatives. 4. Redesign our roads to be naturally safer. Safety on roadways is a top priority, but many of our roads are designed in a way that encourages driving above the speed limit and makes it difficult to see or stop for people walking or biking. If roads were designed to encourage safer driving, then enforcement of traffic laws would be less necessary. Montgomery County has adopted a Vision Zero policy. Vision Zero is the goal of eliminating traffic deaths and serious injuries. The county should take steps to implement its Vision Zero 2030 plan by redesigning roads to be safe for all users, called Complete Streets, with driving lanes, sidewalks, street trees, adequate lighting, and more. This would encourage people to drive more safely and reduce the need for traffic enforcement, both automated and by police officers. In conclusion, Black and brown residents in Montgomery County are disproportionately stopped by police while driving, leading to inequitable outcomes. By reducing traffic stops, expanding automated enforcement, improving police training, and redesigning our roads, Montgomery County can become a more equitable and safe place to live and travel.